Ladies and gentlemen, hear me today, because I know I'm not just speaking to those who have had an easy road. I'm speaking to warriors. I'm speaking to survivors. I'm speaking to those who have been through the fire and the flood. You've stumbled, you've fallen, you've been knocked down so hard you weren't sure if you'd ever get back up again. But let me tell you something. A stumble does not mean stop. A stumble does not mean surrender. Stumbling is a part of the journey, but it is not the end of the road. Life will test you, circumstances will shake you, but hear me, just because you trip does not mean you are out of the race. A runner who stumbles doesn't walk off the track. No, they gather themselves, they reset their footing, and they push forward. Maybe you've stumbled in your finances. Maybe you've stumbled in your relationships. Maybe you've stumbled in your faith. But don't you dare let a misstep define you, because strength is built in the stumble. The strongest people aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who fell and got back up. They're the ones who learned how to walk through the storm with their head held high. They're the ones who took their pain and turned it into power. Your stumble is not your story. The enemy wants you to believe that your mistake is your identity, that your failure is your final chapter. But I came to tell you, Teddy, God is still writing. What you thought was your breaking point is about to be your breakthrough moment. Even in the stumble, God is steady. When you are weak, He is strong. When you feel lost, He is your guide. When you feel like you can't go another step, He says, I am with you. Get up and keep moving. So I challenge you, Toady, turn that stumble into a step. Use your setback as a setup for your comeback. Walk like you already won. Even when you don't feel steady, even when the ground beneath you feels shaky, walk by faith and not by sight. Keep your eyes on the promise, not the problem. Keep your focus on the purpose, not the pain. Keep moving forward, because if He called you, He will keep you. You may have stumbled, but you are still standing. And as long as you are standing, you have another chance to fight, another chance to believe, another chance to rise. So straighten your back, lift your head, and step forward, because your stumble is not your end, it's just the beginning of your next victory. Stay steady in the stumble and watch how God takes you further than you ever imagined. Stumbling is inevitable. Life has a way of shaking even the strongest among us. No matter how prepared, how skilled, or how faithful you are, there will come a moment when your footing slips, when the unexpected happens, when the weight of circumstances tries to pull you down. But here, stumbling does not mean stopping. See, the enemy wants you to believe that because you tripped, you're out of the race, that because you made a mistake, you're disqualified, and that because you got knocked down, you have no business getting back up. But let me tell you something, falling is not final unless you decide to stay there. It's not the stumble that defines you, it's what you do next. A baby learning to walk doesn't give up after the first fall. No, they get back up, sometimes wobbly, sometimes unsure, but they keep moving. Why? Because built inside of them is a drive to move forward. That same drive is inside of you. You may have stumbled in your finances, in your relationships, in your faith, in your business, in your confidence, but that doesn't mean it's over. Just because you lost your balance for a moment doesn't mean you've lost your purpose. Just because you trip doesn't mean you're unworthy of the destination. The key is not to let the stumble turn into surrender. When you stumble, shake off the shame, shake off the doubt, shake off the voice that tells you to quit. Stand back up, square your shoulders, and take another step. because the stumble is just part of the journey, but the finish line still belongs to you. Strength isn't built when everything is easy. Strength is built in the struggle, in the push, in the press. Think about it, muscles don't grow without resistance. A weightlifter doesn't get stronger by lifting what's comfortable. They get stronger by pushing against what challenges them. And the same is true in life. When you stumble, it forces you to engage muscles you didn't even know you had. It forces you to reevaluate, to adjust, to fight for balance. That's where real strength is developed, not in the smooth, predictable parts of the road, but in the moments when you have to work for your footing. Sometimes we want life to be easy. We want the path to be clear, the answers to be simple, the journey to be free of obstacles. But the truth is, if there were no struggles, there would be no strength. If there were no stumbles, there would be no resilience. If everything always went perfectly, you would never know what you're truly capable of. Every time you stumble and keep moving, you grow stronger. Every time you get back up after a fall, you gain wisdom. Every time life shakes you and you refuse to be defeated, you step into a new level of power. That's why you can't resent the stumblites building something in you that easy seasons never could. So the next time you find yourself off balance, don't curse the challenge, don't shrink back, don't give up. Recognize that even in the stumble, something is being forged in you. And when you rise from it, because you will rise, you won't just be the same person you were before. You'll be stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what's ahead.
Your stumble is not your story. It may be part of your journey, but it does not define who you are. Too many people allow one mistake, one failure, or one misstep to become the label they wear for the rest of their lives. But let me tell you something, what happened to you is not the final chapter. God is still writing. The enemy wants to convince you that your failure is permanent, that the business that didn't work out, the relationship that fell apart, the mistake you made in your past, that's all you'll ever be. He wants you to believe that your stumble is the end of the road, that you are disqualified from purpose, that you have no right to get back up and try again. But that's a lie. Because every great story has moments of struggle, moments of uncertainty, moments where the main character doesn't know how they're going to make it through, but that's not where the story ends. Look at the greatest leaders, the strongest warriors, the most successful people. They all have chapters of their lives where they stumbled, but they refused to let those moments define them. They understood that a stumble is just a scene, not the whole script. What makes the difference is what you choose to do after the stumble. Do you sit in it? Do you replay it over and over? Do you let it keep you bound in regret? Or do you get back up, shake off the dust, and turn the page? You have the power to move forward. Your past does not get to dictate your future. Your misstep does not erase your calling. Just because you stumble does not mean God has changed his mind about you. He still has a plan. He still has a purpose. He still has greater things ahead. So don't let the enemy hold you hostage to a moment. Don't let your mind convince you that one failure means you're finished. Stand up, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, this is not my story. This is just a chapter. And the best part is still being written. Even in the stumble, God is steady. When life feels uncertain, when everything around you is shifting, when you don't know which way to turn, He remains constant. People change, circumstances change, emotions rise and fall, but God, He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. When you stumble, it's easy to feel alone. It's easy to believe that because you lost your footing, you've lost his favor, that because you made a mistake, he's turned his back on you. But let me tell you something, God is not surprised by your stumble. He knew every step you would take before you took it. He saw every misstep before it happened, and yet he still chose you. He still called you. He still made a way for you. Think about a parent teaching a child to walk. When that baby takes their first steps and stumbles, does the parent get angry? No. They are right there, arms outstretched, encouraging them to get up and try again. If an earthly parent has that much patience, how much more does your heavenly Father have for you? God is not watching your struggle with disappointment. He's watching with love. He is steady when you are shaky. He is strong when you are weak. He is faithful even when you feel like you failed. That's why you can't let the stumble convince you that he's left you. His grace is enough to hold you when you feel like falling. His strength is enough to sustain you when you feel like giving up. The key is not to rely on your own ability to steady yourself. It's to lean into the one who never wavers. Stop trying to figure it all out on your own. Stop letting shame tell you that you have to clean yourself up before you come back to him. He was with you in the stumble. He is with you in the struggle, and he will be with you in the victory. So instead of focusing on how unstable you feel, focus on how steady he is. Instead of replaying the moment you lost balance, remind yourself that he is holding you. And if he is holding you, you will not fall. Turn the stumble into a step. What was meant to stop you can actually push you forward if you shift your perspective. Too often when we stumble, we pause, we hesitate, we second guess ourselves. We let the moment of misstep define our next move. But what if I told you that your stumble is not a sign to stop, but an opportunity to step into something greater? Think about it. When you trip while walking, your natural instinct is to catch yourself, to take another step forward, to regain balance. Your body understands something that your mind often forgets. Forward motion is the key to stability. The same principle applies to life. When you stumble, don't freeze in fear. Don't stay stuck in regretting another step. Move forward. Learn from what caused the stumble. Adjust your footing and keep walking. Every mistake holds a lesson. Every setback carries wisdom. Every failure teaches you something that success never could. The problem is too many people allow the stumble to paralyze them instead of propel them. They focus so much on what went wrong that they miss the opportunity to grow, to shift, to move in a new direction. Your stumble is not a sign of weakness. It is an invitation to rise stronger. What the enemy meant for harm, God can use for good. That moment that embarrassed you, that season that broke you, that decision that didn't go as planned, if you put it in God's hands, he can use it to develop you, to elevate you, to position you for something greater than you imagined. So don't waste the stumble by staying in it. Don't waste the lesson by ignoring it. Get up, adjust your stance, keep walking, because what was meant to break you is about to build you. What looked like a failure is about to be fuel for your future. And if you keep moving forward, you'll look back and realize that what you thought was a setback was really a setup for your next step. Walk like you already won. Even when the ground beneath you feels shaky, even when the road ahead is uncertain, you have to carry yourself with the confidence of someone who knows the victory is already secured. See, too many people wait until they feel steady to start walking. They wait until every question is answered, every problem is solved, every challenge is removed. But faith doesn't work like that. Faith is not about waiting until everything looks right. It's about moving forward even when it doesn't. When you walk like you already won, you stop second-guessing yourself. You stop waiting for permission to believe in what God has already promised you. You stop letting fear dictate your pace. You start stepping with authority, with boldness, with the mindset of someone who refuses to be defeated. Because let me tell you, victory doesn't come to those who sit on the sidelines doubting and hesitating. It comes to those who dare to move even when they don't feel ready. David didn't wait until he had the perfect armor to face Goliath. He walked out with a sling and a stone and the confidence that God had already given him the victory. The Israelites didn't wait for the Red Sea to part before they stepped forward. They moved, and then the waters made way. Sometimes you have to walk like the path is already made, even when you don't see it yet. You have to believe that what God has spoken over you is more real than what the enemy is whispering in your ear. And let me tell you, the enemy will do everything to make you doubt your next step. He will remind you of your past, of your failures, of your weaknesses. He will try to make you think that because you stumbled before, you'll stumble again. But when you know who you are and whose you are, you don't walk like someone who is afraid of falling. You walk like someone who has already won the battle. So, straighten your back. Lift your head. Take that step. Even if you feel uncertain, even if you don't have all the answers, walk in faith. Walk in purpose. Walk in the confidence that the God who called you is the God who will carry you. Because if He has already declared victory over your life, then nothing, no stumble, no setback, no struggle can take that away. Keep moving forward like you already won, because in Him you have. So here we stand at the intersection of struggle and strength, of stumbles and steps, of fear and faith, and now the choice is yours. You can let the stumble define you, or you can let it refine you. You can let the misstep hold you back, or you can let it propel you forward. You can sit in the setback, or you can stand up, shake off the dust, and keep moving towards your destiny. Because hear me, God is not done with you yet. The stumble was never meant to stop you. It was meant to strengthen you. The fall was never meant to finish you. It was meant to fuel you. What looked like a detour was really a setup. What felt like a failure was really a foundation. And what the enemy meant to break you, God is using to build you. So step forward, step boldly, step like you already won. Because if God is for you, nothing can stand against you. Not the mistake, not the misstep, not the enemy, not even your own doubt. You may have stumbled, but you are still standing. And as long as you are standing, you have another chance. So walk with confidence, walk with faith, walk with the knowledge that the one who called you is the one who keeps you. Because the stumble was never the end of your story. It was just the beginning of your greatest victory. Stay steady in the stumble and watch God take you further than you ever imagined.